Thank you everyone for joining this session. This is a webinar on the art of luxury brand storytelling, session 1. I'm your host, Dawn Murden, VP of Customer Success here at Shorthand. This webinar will last 45 minutes in total. The session is recorded, as I mentioned, and will be made available afterwards. I'll also share the Shorthand story that I'm presenting today. So firstly, a little bit about the agenda and what we're going to be talking about today. So firstly, we'll talk a little bit about an introduction to this session, what it's about and what we have planned next. Then we'll explore why storytelling matters for luxury brands. Then we'll talk a little bit about history, art and science and look at the key ingredients for storytelling. Then how to inject luxury into every channel. Then we'll look at some other resources that you can explore afterwards. As mentioned, this story will be shared along with the recording so you can explore everything afterwards. And then I'll also stay around for a few minutes at the end to see if there are any questions as well. So firstly, a bit of an introduction. So we run approximately 4 sessions a year on special topics that are deeply connected to storytelling. This session is sector specific. We work with a number of luxury brands, and Shorthand has become a critical part of their marketing and communication strategy. And this is the first of 2 sessions on luxury brand storytelling. The next session will feature a guest speaker, and more to be announced on that very, very soon. Then next, a little introduction to me, your host. I'm Dawn Murden, as I mentioned. I'm based just outside of London in the UK. I joined the Shorthand team in 2017, and previously I worked as a journalist at a national women's magazines and then a trade publication, and then I also worked at a C-suite membership organization as well. I have been lucky to have worked or been involved with a number of luxury brands during the span of my career, including the Financial Times, Christie's, Albright, and Dorchester Collection, just to name a few. And now I have the absolute honor of leading our Shorthand customer success team of 8 around the globe. So why does storytelling matter? And specifically, why does it matter to luxury brands? Firstly, stories bring a brand to life. They allow people to connect to your brand. Recently, our CEO, Ricky Robinson, spoke at the Content Summit Australia and said that storytelling is fundamental for human engagement, and he's certainly not alone in this thinking. Walpole is the official sector body for UK luxury. It was founded in 1992 and it's a not-for-profit organisation. It counts more than 250 British brands in its membership, and each year the organisation runs its British Luxury Summit, examining the state of the sector. And in 2023 and 2024, storytelling was a key theme. I was lucky enough to go along with my colleague. They run a really great session where you can explore everything about the sector of luxury. This quote sort of really brought this home. So for any brand, it is fantastically important to remember the power of storytelling, whether it's an exhibition, a book, or events. Storytelling is what unites us as human beings. It's really primal, it's a really human primal need to understand and be understood, and sharing stories is a part of that. And this was a quote by Justin Baccarde, who's a Chanel biographer and former editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar. And for luxury brands, this is arguably more important. Luxury consumers have high expectations. Luxury brands must create allure and emotion and underscore brand value and credibility, and to some extent explain the elevated prices or the exclusivity of the brand as well. Luxury Communications Council is the vision of communications leader Rosie Shepherd. And since establishing the LCC in London in 2017, the network has opened collectives in Dubai and New York as well. And it continues its commitment to facilitating connections, collaboration, and knowledge exchange internationally among the luxury retail sector. The LLC published a luxury piece on specifically around travel very recently, and it summarized this well. And it said, the brands that will win tomorrow don't need to define meaningful experiences. They lead with emotion, highlighting unique and authentic experiences that bring audiences closer to that feeling of fulfillment. The quote goes on to say, by emphasizing the emotional facets of luxury travel and the potential for self-discovery, rejuvenation and fulfillment means it can become more than mere indulgence. It transforms into an investment in one's well-being, a passport to a richer, more meaningful life. In essence, show, don't tell, and make them feel the brand. So a number of marketing and communications experts have drawn the same conclusion, that storytelling is crucial for luxury brands. And we've had a number of signups to this webinar today, so it's definitely a topic that a lot of people are interested in, hence why we wanted to cover it. So as I said, it's crucial for brands, but how are brands actually achieving this? There has been a rise in a number of roles introduced at the top of organizations that include storytellers. This isn't particularly new. The Telegraph published a piece about this back in 2015. I think the headline was something along the lines of what the heck is a chief storyteller? I always find those roles quite interesting in the role that I'm in, but the introduction of roles like that can be a real double-edged sword. I sort of think about the number of chief digital officers that we saw in large corporates around 10 years ago, hired to deal purely with digital transformation. It's a bit like that. While dedicated roles can be good to drive change, storytelling is and should be something that exists across every role in a company. And the Whirlpool provide a good example of this. So just mentioning them again as a sort of leading body in the luxury sector, their latest study, which was called Luxury in the Making, in association with Frontier Economics, gives a good insight into this and how brands can follow that. It details how British luxury contributes 3.7% of the UK's GDP and is worth 81 billion to the UK economy, plus how the sector supports over 450,000 jobs throughout the country. While these numbers are really important, it's the stories of the highly skilled people within the sector that make the report really stand out, and the stories that they tell. The employees share their experience in the brand's heritage and history and are custodians of the cultural assets and legacies, some steeped in history from many decades or even centuries past. And just moving on to one of the quotes taken from the report from the Carnegie Club, which is a prestigious private members club. It's deeper than just a job. It's not simply transactional. Our employees understand the part they play in preserving this incredible site. We're in a building made of sandstone with marble throughout, materials that will long outlast us. The work we undertake together will be appreciated by generations to come. Really sort of really captures that sort of feeling there very well. So in conclusion, to this part, why does storytelling matter for luxury brands? Stories are more memorable. Stories evoke emotion. Stories help to simplify complex concepts. Stories unite your audience. And stories can inspire action when they're told really, really well. So moving on to the next part then, key ingredients for luxury brand storytelling. And in order to explore this, I'd like to first delve in a little bit to history, art, and science. So firstly, history. Many luxury brands are steeped in heritage, some for centuries. For example, Fortnum and Mason over here in the UK was established back in 1707 by a footman to Queen Anne and his landlord. And continuing to tell the history of a luxury brand is essential. Why does it exist? Then we move on to the art. So luxury brands are beautiful, they're iconic, they're exclusive, they exude craftsmanship and quality. The luxury brand and art world are also intertwined. In many cases, the brand is the art, or the brand is deeply connected to the art world in some way. And the Luxury Tribune wrote of how this mix has led to a sort of phrase that's been coined called art kitting. Quite hard to say. And they summarize it by saying, the world of art and the world of luxury are ever more intertwined. Foundations dedicated to contemporary art are flourishing and bring a much appreciated aura of patronage to luxury brands that connect their name and image to these institutions. So the stories need to convey the art and craftsmanship, the beauty and care that make the brand what it is. Storytelling is also a great way of reaching new audiences to recharge the brand, even for the most illustrious brand. And the Oxford academic say, when you tell a story that resonates with your audience, you create a connection that goes beyond the rational. And just thinking sort of the connection that humans often have to art. Also, in the book, The Luxury Strategy, this is another great quote that just really sums up sort of the world that you're trying to create sort of with the art. And they say, in luxury, you communicate in order to create the dream and then recharge the brand's value, not in order to sell. Luxury brand communication is situated far more upstream of the purchase. The product and the brand universe are spoken of in a dream-like way. So how do you create a connection with your audience? Before I tackle that and go into the conclusion, it's worth looking at the science as well. Paul Zak is a neuroscientist at Claremont Graduate University in California, USA, and also the founder of a company called Immersion Neuroscience. And they found during an experiment that storytelling could change audience behavior by changing our brain chemistry. They took blood tests of subjects before and after. They were watching a video about a sick child and his dad. And what they found was there was a difference in terms of the hormones that were released as a result of watching the case study video that they had prepared. So while watching that case study video, cortisol was released, increasing the subject's focus. And this was related in this instance to a distress response because it was a very sad story. And the second hormone released was oxytocin, which is related to care and connection. And this, in this example, was correlated to empathy. They also went on to do further research on this and sort of looked at the actions that people took as well. And in this example, because of the nature of the case study, it sort of led to people sort of donating money to strangers and charities, and that was the action that it led to. So as I mentioned, I'll share this afterwards, but in the video entitled Empathy, Neurochemistry, and the Dramatic Arc, Paul Zak explains how dramatic stories can transport us, literally transport us, our brains anyway, into the world of others and therefore change our brain chemistry and therefore the actions that we take after it as well. So I thought it was really interesting to bring the science into it as well. It's interesting, sort of Oxford academics said, it's almost an irrational effect that you're kind of having potentially with brands, but there is a real science there as well that we can tap into. So there are a number of tips already out there in the world about storytelling more generally. You've got the 5 Ps, the 7-point story structure. There's a lot of different ways of kind of breaking this down. Based on the research and sort of our experience, I've broken it down into key ingredients, 4 key ingredients, with a little bit of a follow-up prompt to perhaps think about for each of these points. So the first one is objective. So why are you telling the story? Then experience. So what journey are you taking the audience on? How will you transport them? Sort of how are you going to do that? And perhaps we can look at things like the channel that we're using there. Next is feel. What emotion do you want the story to evoke? How do you want them to feel when they read or watch the video or read the article or come into into the buildings that you've acquired as part of the organization, just sort of how you really want them to feel at every step, every touch point. Then action. So what do you want them to do after they've immersed themselves in that brand story? And these points really do take into account that, like, art, history, and the science there too. Next up, inject. Oh, sorry. Apologies. Siri just started talking to me about history, so I'm just going to make sure that that turns off. That was very, very strange. Bear with me. I'm just going to make sure it doesn't interrupt me again. There we go. I think it's because I said history and they thought I said Siri. Anyway, moving on. Injecting Lux into every channel. So whether it's an innovative store design, ensuring customer representatives are highly trained and have in-depth brand and product knowledge, a beautiful photo book, a social media post, or a story section of a website, luxury brands need to ensure that the experience transcends across every channel that the brand uses. So referring back to the LCC again, the Luxury Communications Council, they said that heritage brands cannot rely solely on the history and name to be successful. They must tap into Gen Z behaviors and desires, and above all, stay relevant. Brand storytelling, authenticity, and sustainability are all reportedly important values to them. And to hone in on this fact, perhaps a little bit unsubtly, like a chief digital officer hired on the back foot to lead a digital transformation, obviously Gen Zers are tech natives and they expect a seamless integration of cutting edge digital tools. And just some facts on sort of, or some stats on how much screen time people are spending. According to data collated by the UK newspaper, The Independent, the average 2024 screen time for users around the world from 16 to 64 across all different platforms and devices is approximately 6 hours and 35 minutes. So actually that's quite a large percentage of our day if we discount the time that we're sleeping for, that we're interacting, of course, with the digital devices. I know I've got my phone right next to me, and I know how much time I spend on it personally. I'm sure we can all relate to that. Globally, people between 16 and 24 have the highest average screen time as well. With this in mind, one element that really, really stood out while researching this topic and digging down into it further was the number of luxury brands that still produce rigid content management system articles with perhaps one image or video at the top, text underneath, or a flat, unengaging PDF that customers needed to download in order to find out more about that high-end product or service. Exploring a PDF on desktop is pretty tricky. You have to sort of zoom in on where you want to see. And when you have that same PDF on mobile, it's near on impossible to kind of explore it. You just really can't. It's a really subpar experience. And a good design of a PDF really doesn't make up for that either. You, as the marketer though, you don't really know how it's performing with your audience anyway, because all you see is just the download stats. So you know how many people have downloaded it, but you're not really seeing what that experience is afterwards. You don't know how many parts of that page they're reading. You don't know perhaps how frustrated they've got and what the drop-off point is from that PDF. And in sharp contrast to this, many luxury brands pour time and resources into creating beautiful brand books that will decorate the coffee tables of top hotels or houses for decades, maybe even centuries to come. And they're really beautiful artifacts that a lot of time and resource has been spent on. Now, granted, a luxury book and a website serve different purposes, but the inconsistency in the presentation of the brand across multiple channels is the real issue here. As well as the subpar experience on desktop and mobile, which existing customers and frankly new customers or new potential customers won't stand for. In addition to that, the organization has already invested the time and the effort into creating these beautiful assets. But then those assets aren't really working very hard for the brand or the organization. They're sort of, yes, you've got this beautiful brand book, but what else is that doing? There's so much more that could be done with that. And yes, there's definitely a consideration for exclusivity. If you're producing a brand book that has a very high price tag, and it's the first time images like that have been taken, you're obviously not going to want to give the keys away to that online. But the assets could be used in a different way to win future customers, increase ROI, and recharge that brand, as was mentioned in that the brand strategy book, so not having to sort of rely on that heritage. And also the assets, it can be a great way to sort of produce a teaser as well for the book and perhaps kind of bring in new potential customers as well. So now we move on. Engaging storytelling for the web can be beautifully simple. And I'd love to show you now some examples by iconic brands who are kind of taking that storytelling, visual storytelling for the web, all in their stride in a range of different ways. And also sort of the topics are quite different as well. So the first one to show you is Christie's. Christie use digital storytelling for articles, and they also use it frequently to showcase the auctions that they're leading as well. And this one is the Exceptional Sale. It's the leading global auction platform for decorative and applied arts. And they've brought it together really beautifully in this story. So it's quite a simple kind of layout for this one. You have these elements here where you can kind of go through the different lots. But it works really well. They've got their videos in there as well that you can explore as the audience. Also, what I'll do is, I know different people on this webinar are going to be interested in different kind of aspects of these stories as well. So of course, these will all be shared after with you so you can explore them in your own time. One thing I would say is me kind of scrolling through these web stories on a Zoom, it doesn't really do it justice. You've really got to explore them either on your desktop, your tablet, or your mobile, and really sort of, see that experience and for yourself. Next one is by Bonhams. So this story reveals the history and interesting facts about Hermes, and invites the audience to also sell their handbag on in auction as well. And one other thing that was mentioned about Gen Zers in the research as well by the LCC was how important sustainability is to Gen Zers, and sort of auction houses can really sort of sort of make sure that that is an important facet of what they're doing. A number of brands, of course, are also doing more with sustainability themselves in terms of the production of goods, but also inventing their own circular economy as well. For example, Rolex has done that recently too. So this is a really fantastic story as well. Quite simple. It's just a kind of listicle presentation that we've got here, but they've put it together really well. We've got some great call outs there. And then this is perhaps the star of the show on this one. We've got this really great call to action here for the private sales of the luxury handbags to click through, where it's kind of teasing us, it's revealing a bit of that handbag before we go into the final part of the story. Then we've got English heritage. And this is a story, if you joined the webinar, maybe so from following on LinkedIn, you may have seen I posted about this story. I love cheese personally. It's a history of cheese making. It's really fantastic the way they've brought it together. They've got these like little kind of icons here as well. And then this is a shorthand scroll point section, which allows you to create an interactive experience where you can scroll into one image. So from an asset creation perspective, as I was mentioning earlier, and making those assets work really hard for you. So making sure that you can deliver the maximum return on investment via the assets and resources that have already been used. This is a great example of that, because if you are creating things for print as well, you can make them translate into an online world very easily by using something like this, where you're creating one image and then you can encourage the reader to scroll to different parts of that image in order to explore the different aspects of cheese making. And what's great about this as well is it's interactive. It also delivers the information in bite-sized chunks to the reader too. So often we talk about scroll fatigue. If you have just a really long scrolling story, let's say I mentioned earlier, an image or a video at the top, just a big swath of text underneath. People get bored. They're not going to read it. You're not going to keep their attention. And it's really hard to capture people's attention. And that was another thing that sort of came out during this research as well. The LCC, the Walpole, they all talk about sort of the need to capture an audience attention as a luxury brand as well, and to keep it. So great story there. Next up is one by Vogue Polska. And this story allows the reader to interactively engage with different fashion products as we scroll through. So this one also utilizes scroll points as well. And it starts from here. So we've got these outlines here on the subjects that we want to kind of hone in on, and then a little bit of accompanying text on each of these to kind of explain the part of the outfit as well. The other thing you can do on these is sort of add, call to actions on each of the outfit as well, each parts, to kind of encourage that buying action too. Then we've got one by, well, this is by Savoir Faire, and it's a sponsor piece that they created for Gucci about the Gucci Epilogue collection. And this story uses a really clever mix of video, GIFs, and cleverly layered imagery to tell the story of the Gucci Epilogue collection. So this is a little GIF we've got here. Just a couple little frames to make that. Then we've got this sort of little teaser here where we can see them, a video, so we can explore that as well. And it's full screen, so the reader can really see it in all its glory. And then we have some really clever image layering here. And that's the reveal section. And next, or finally, for the story examples, we have Mansion Global. So Mansion Global showcase beautiful imagery and allow the reader to fully immerse themselves as if I go down with these are all going to appear full screen on any device that they're being viewed on. And this looks at the art and culture of Amsterdam. And there's some nice little sort of subtle animation effects as we go through here as well, such as text just animating as we kind of scroll through that. So little techniques like that, give it the premium feel, and also again keep that reader attention as we're going through. So those are the examples. And now I thought I'd switch into a bit of a tutorial. As mentioned, I've of course been showing you a shorthand story today. And we do run a full training webinar on shorthand, so you can kind of learn all of the different features and section types in here. But it's just to show you a little kind of sneak peek of what shorthand is. So here we go. This is our dashboard. As you can see, this is the story that I've been showing you all today. Super easy to start. You create a new story and then you're met with a few different choices. So you can either start with a blank story and then sort of populate all of your content in there. You add your media, you add your copy, and sort of build it as you go from scratch. You can also import. So you can import from an existing web page, or you can import from PDF as well. So if you're one of those brands who are creating PDFs and you want an easy way to kind of put them into an online forum, this might be a good step. Now, just to mention, with this particular feature is in beta, and really the best part of it is that it's going to accelerate the creation of storytelling. So you've already got all of those assets, those images, the copy, etc. It's just going to inject it all into shorthand, so then you can restyle it using shorthand section types. The other option is you're also met with a number of different templates, and I'd love to show you a couple of those templates today, which sort of most fit the luxury brand storytelling sort of subject here. So first one is a brochure that we've got, and you may spot I used one of the images earlier. So this is all kind of stock imagery and a little bit of design that we've used here, of course, to create a fictitious boating company here, or a luxury yacht company. And this is sort of how it looks. So all of the sections are built up for you. You can see those on the left-hand side. You can see what the section type is as well on the right-hand side here. So we can see that this is a text over media section. We can see that this is also a text over media section, but we've got this nice half and half layout here with the images, which we saw in one of the Mansion Global stories. Then we've got a full screen image in here that the background is zooming out. And on all of the sections, you have these section options that allow you to kind of tailor what you're going to see there. You can also add things like tables, so it's really good for numerical data or maybe stats and things that you'd want to add in there. and so on. And you can chop and change this at will. You can add in your own media, of course, make it completely your own. The other template I'd love to show you today, just going back into that, is a product catalog. So again, a fictitious eyewear company that we've invented in order to kind of go into this. We have our title section followed by our text over media section. And what we've done, we've got the same image here. So much like the Gucci Savoir Faire example, clever kind of image layering can be such a great effect when it comes to storytelling and giving that really sort of premium luxury feel to these as well. So we've got the same image here and the image has no sort of overlay over it. And then as you see, it says here, overlay image. And then we've got an overlay in there to sort of give that effect as we're scrolling over. And then we've got some nice images at the side there. And then this is our reveal section. So where you can put full screen images one after the other and place a transition between them. So I'll just sort of break that down a little bit. You can see the images all in here. And what we're doing is just scrolling through those images to create that effect. So from a design standpoint or resources standpoint, which is often really important for marketing teams, I mentioned ROI earlier. Of course, you want to get the biggest kind of bang for your buck with these things as well, but make them look really, really beautiful. This is so great. It won't take you very long to create. As well. And I know sort of having gone to the Walpole event, there's a number of luxury brands, of course, that still have quite small teams when it comes to marketing teams. So kind of taking that into consideration as well is something to think about. And then the final template to show you is our fashion example. We've got Emerald Harvest. It sort of zooms in and then fades into the text section there. And then you have these sort of subtle zooms as we go through to really focus you in on the subject. This time we focus out. So digital magazines, this you can see how this kind of use case would fit really well into a digital magazine as well. When you've got those kind of fashion spreads or interview pieces that you might be putting together as well. And really good thing about all of these templates, you don't have to create an account with Shorthand to use them. You can use our playground. So of course you've signed up for a webinar. Thank you so much for being here with us. But if you're not a customer, if you're not signed up yet, you can use the playground. You can pass that to other colleagues or connections as well that you think might be interested. Just we know it's important to be able to kind of play with these things before you sort of maybe give your email and sort of go into them. So it's very easy to do that. And then with regards to Shorthand as well, you can start using it for free. So you can see all the different section types and everything like that and get a feel for how it's going to work. So I'd also like to show you just sort of my story that I've been walking through today. You may have noticed one of the effects here that we had with the reveal section. So this was 2 images that I put together here, and then I put a fade on them using, I'll just show you. So I've got the same image, and then what I did is just used our filters. So we've got a number of filters. So there is some light image manipulation that you can do in Shorthand as well to make sure that that looks fantastic. And when you're sort of first getting started, you can also change a section type very easily as well. So I haven't even started talking about the names of our section types, but you can very easily kind of convert and change. And we also have a number of alternate styles. So just like those templates I showed you, we also have a number of different sort of templates that you can use as well. Moving on to next steps and follow-up resources. So I definitely recommend signing up for the craft newsletter. That way you can find out about the next webinar that we're running, but also get some of the most fantastic stories on the web delivered to your inbox. You also might want to watch our Behind the Story webinar with Savoir Flair. They talk about how they created that Gucci story and sort of everything that went into it. So it might be an interesting watch. It's about 25-30 minutes long. And also you could connect with our team to continue the conversation, and Dee's popped all of those links in the chat box as well. So finally, we're almost at time. We'll move on to the Q&A. So I'll just have a little peek in the chat box and the Q&A just to see if there are any questions. Okay, so one question has come through on the Q&A and chat, so I'll answer those. So the question is from Sonia. Thank you so much, Sonia. And it's about SEO optimization. So I will include our support doc on our SEO starter guide in the follow-up. So it's absolutely possible, of course, to make sure SEO, as it should be, is really top of mind when you're creating these digital stories. And that support document provides a really useful walkthrough of how to sort of navigate that. And just if you are interested in sort of navigating to that yourself, you can find that in here as well. And it goes through sort of all of the SEO basics within Shorthand. And then if you have any additional questions about SEO, please do let us know. Okay, we're at 45, so I'll end it there. There's no more questions, but thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining, and have a wonderful rest of the day.